Hi, this is George Hepworth. Welcome back to the Northwind Developer for PowerApps series. In today's video, we're going to look at something a little different, interface design choices. Specifically, how we handle adding new records in data sheets for data entry screens. Although I tried to replicate the look and feel of the access forms in PowerApps, basic differences between those two design environments present challenges as well as opportunities. Access developers are familiar with subforms in Datasheet view with its built-in floating add new row at the bottom of the list. There's the one for orders, there's the one for purchase orders. PowerApps, however, doesn't have that same native design. We can create galleries, which function similar to the way list boxes or data sheets do, but they lack the add new record element. That means we have to choose how to implement it in PowerApps. I'll show you two approaches from Northwind Developer for PowerApps, and then I want your feedback. In Northwind Developer for PowerApps, we've built data entry for both purchase orders and customer orders. Both screens include a gallery for the items already added. They also include a separate row of controls through which new items can be added. In the purchase order screen, the add row is fixed to the bottom of the screen. No matter how many line items you add, the add row stays in place, ready for the next item. For the record, it's also not part of the gallery itself. In the order screen, the add row is not fixed. It floats below the gallery of items already entered. As you add more rows, the add row moves further down. Both approaches work, but the experience is different. Let's start with the purchase order. The add row is always at the bottom. You don't have to scroll to find it. The advantage of the fixed position is predictability. It's always in the same place, easy to reach. That can make repetitive entry faster because your hand and eyes know exactly where to go. On the other hand, as your list of items grows, the add row becomes separated from the most recently entered item. That can mean a bit more scrolling if you want to double check what you just typed. I've skipped ahead and added a few records to demonstrate that. We'll add one more here. Now, watch cherry pie filling. We've added a new record, but it has scrolled out of sight. Now, let's look at the order detail screen. Here, the add row is always right after the last item you entered. For Access developers, this looks and feels familiar because that's exactly how datasheet subforms work. The benefit is continuity. You're always working in context right under the most recent item. But as the list grows longer, you may need to scroll more often just to reach the add row. Unlike the fixed version, it doesn't stay at the bottom of the screen. Let's demo that. We'll add one more condiment, call it syrup. The add row has moved to the very bottom of the screen. Our most recently added product, we have to scroll to see it. From this point on, the behavior changes. When the add row reaches the bottom of the screen, it stays at the bottom of the screen, just like the add row which started in that position on the purchase order screen. Which is better? Honestly, there isn't a single correct answer. It depends on the workflow. For fast, repetitive entry with predictable placement of the cursor, the fixed add row has an advantage. For contextual entry, where you want to see the last item before adding the next, the floating row feels more natural. And in both cases, the number of items in an order or purchase order can also be a factor. Short lists start with a floating add row, but longer lists have a fixed row after a few items are added. Neither approach is native to PowerApps. Unlike Access, PowerApps doesn't provide this functionality automatically. Each requires a deliberate design decision. And this is where I'd like your input. Which approach do you prefer? Do you like the fixed add row that's always anchored at the bottom? Or do you prefer the floating add row directly under your most recent entry, like Access datasheets, until you reach the bottom of the screen? Please leave a comment with your preference and also explain why. Your feedback will help me guide future design in Northwind PowerApps, but in other PowerApps applications, and maybe even help other developers think about their own user interface choices. Once again, thanks for watching this episode of Northwind Developer for PowerApps. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, give it a like and share it with other Access developers who are exploring PowerApps. And above all, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next video in the series. See you next time.